This is Lonnie Stark of Stark Silver Creek, and I'm here with James Boyer, who is exhibiting his photographs from South Africa. Can you tell us a little about your background? You spent half your time in Oakland and the rest in South Africa.
That's right, but I was born in South Africa, and I lived there most of my life until I came to the Bay about 10 years ago, and I've been going backwards and forwards, but yeah, I'm pretty much from South Africa, so that's a lot of the inspiration in my photography is working in Africa, and just the opportunities of working in Africa is really amazing.
And when did you start deciding to capture the moments in Africa in your photography?
Well, it was, growing up in South Africa in apartheid, and I was just very inspired by the role that photographers and journalists had in bringing around change in the country, and particularly some photographers who really took some very daring pictures, even with censorship and the whole South African story, that those images came through and they were very powerful. So that was always a big inspiration for me, is just the way that photography and journalism can challenge oppression and bring around change.
And what would you say with this collection, what were you thinking about when you put it together? Obviously dreams of the colony, you had certain thoughts of the direction you want to go with the pieces.
Yeah, growing up in South Africa as in apartheid and as a so-called colonial child of the colonies, and as a white child, it was just as I grew older, it was a very problematic experience in terms of what was my role in Africa, what would I do here, and what was I given from my forefathers to carry on, and what was just such a mess essentially, and I think this play Groundswell really captures that intense almost way that South Africans are lost because of all our futures were tied up with this big racist lie, apartheid. So that really looking beyond the fence, beyond the suburbs that I grew up in, and looking beyond that and seeing what's really going on was a big motivation.
When you were watching this, was this the first time you saw this play?
It was, yes, it was tonight.
And was there certain elements of it that you could identify with, or I mean, what was it like to sit in the audience watching this this play?
Well, it was incredible because it is. South Africa is so far away from America, but so it doesn't get that much airplay here. But it's really very interesting. The themes and the topics are so universal across the world. In South Africa, they're a little more exposed and a little more in contrast, but they really are universal issues of wealth and poverty and colonialism. And so it's just great to see that here, and it's really even more exciting for me to see something about contemporary South Africa, not something about apartheid South Africa, but like how are people working with that today, and that's exciting.
Now let's talk a little about this piece, which is called Burning Boy. What is this piece about, and why don't I move to this side so that we can get a good view of it?
Okay. Yeah, well, with this exhibit I was just very interested in the institutions of colonialism, the buildings, and so many places in Southern Africa you'll see this sort of decaying, this really charming decay that's where these colonial institutions were built, but they were never allowed, local indigenous people were never allowed to participate. They weren't built for them, they were built to extract the wealth of the colony. And what's happening in this painting is that church in the background was built in 1520. It's the oldest colonial building in Africa, possibly Southern Hemisphere. And there was a church that was built as the first colonial touch off the coast of Mozambique. And these kids were just playing on the foreground because in this island everyone burns the refuse, and they were just playing. It looks really grotesque, but they were having a lot of fun. And I like that.
Kids and fire, huh? There's some combination there.
There is. So it looks kind of grotesque, but they're having fun. But it's just startling that this is 1520 was built ex-colonialism, and there's still there's no refuse or sewer system on this island, and that's just, for me, so much of the relationship with colonialism in Africa is Africa didn't benefit, and it's the kids that really have suffered from that. And I also like it that as a photographer, I'm usually hidden, but the kids really reacting to me and pointing me out. So that's really nice because as a South African, I feel that's part of the relationship of taking the image is so much of my colonial story and trying to understand that in my role in Africa.
How do you find the inspirations that say, "Hey, I want to take a picture of this"?
Well, it helps if someone sends you on an assignment. That always helps. But I really just try to get to very remote places. Like Ilha de Mozambique was fairly remote after the 30 years of war in Mozambique, and the island was very hard to get to. But I just found in Africa there are just so many places that you can get to that are unchanged and untouched, and just so many incredible stories. But so that's really what drives me, is to find those stories and to try to tell those stories.
How many pieces are part of this collection?
10 pictures in this exhibit, and yeah, this is another one. Well, this was also in Ilha de Mozambique. It's a church that was built during the colonial rule, but has just been left there, and you can just see this charming decay. That somehow, what surprised me when I saw this was that the cross hadn't been removed. If this was somewhere else in the world, I feel someone would just taken that and sold it, or so there's this real respect, but it also wasn't used. It wasn't built for the indigenous people, and Christianity in Africa for me is very problematic. I call this Jesus with a question mark. Like what? Because first the Portuguese colonialists came and they built the churches, and then they started doing slavery and ivory, and we built the colony. And that's sort of what I was born into, and I'm very uncomfortable with that. With that whole historical aspect of myself.
So if people are interested in seeing these pieces, obviously they can come down to the San Jose Rep. It's on the second floor, and they can see it whenever the Rep is open, I would imagine. Are there other ways that they can see your pieces? Do you have a website, contact information that you can share?
Right, yeah. I have a website, and it's www.timbuktudesign.com, and that's TIMBUKTU design.com. And pictures will be available and shown on there as well.
Great, and these are obviously prints that you have of quite a number of your photos. And just to give people an idea, you have 10 in this exhibit. Do you have a lot more on your website, I would imagine, as well, of other pieces of work?
I have other pieces. I haven't really. This is my first opportunity to really exhibit in the Bay Area. So it's these pieces, but I will be putting up more pictures on my travels in Africa and other pictures from Africa.
Fabulous. Well, James, I just want to thank you for taking the time out to spend with us and sharing some of your history here. I'm here with James Boyer. I'm here at the San Jose Rep. Enjoyed a great opening night of Groundswell, and thank you and good luck.